Good morning, students. Welcome to this session on Communicative English, Unit 6 for 11th Standard. And the topic for discussion today is Responding to the World Around You. I would like you to look at the picture which is taken from your textbook, where you see a child looking at the waves of the sea, and it looks like a sheet of a wave under which there are several objects seen. What do you think it could signify? It refers to the objects which are thrown into the ocean, which means we human beings are polluting the sea, the ocean, and so much of the garbage and the plastics have gone into the ocean, and we are disturbing the marine life there. We are polluting all the water bodies. So I would like you to start with this kind of a reflection about the environment that we are actually living in. Next slide tells you about the objects which will last for years to come before they become degradable. We know about biodegradable things and also non-biodegradable objects. And what you see in this picture is nothing but the non-biodegradable objects which we use in our everyday life. We use a lot of plastics, we use a lot of diapers, we use all computer accessories, the CDs, the floppy disks, the e-waste, what not. Plenty of things, they are going into the environment and they try to pollute the land, water, sky, air, and also the animals, the birds, insects, plants are all affected by this kind of a pollution caused mainly by human beings. So we are going to deal with environmental protection here, where you are going to be dealing with reading passages followed by listening and speaking and also writing. But the content for the entire unit will be based on environmental conservation, which is the need of the hour. So what do you mean by environment? By environment, what we mean is everything that surrounds us, everything that lives on this particular planet, which is a very beautiful planet, the earth. So we have the land, the water, the sky, the air, and also we have the living things, the animals, birds, insects, plants, and also human beings. But what do we do with this? We think only of ourselves. We are not worried about what is outside of us. We are not worried about the physical environment, which includes the land, water, air, and sky, and also the living beings who survive along with the human beings. That is, the animals, birds, insects, we call them fauna, and the plant life, which we refer to as flora. So what are we actually trying to do? We as human beings, we are trying to exploit all the resources of nature only for our welfare and only for our survival, and we are not bothered about what is outside of us. So human beings are no doubt social animals, but we do not consider the other species on the earth. We are not worried about the environment, but we are only concerned about ourselves. So there is a necessity to change our attitude in order to protect the environment. And coming to the reading aspect of this lesson, it's a very important language activity where you have the story of the hummingbird. And can you guess why this is called a hummingbird? Many of them think that it sings. Many birds sing, but hummingbird does not sing. But then why this name has come as hummingbird to this small bird? It's the smallest bird which weighs just 2 grams. If you go on Google and find out, you will get a lot of information about this bird. And the story is about this hummingbird which makes a particular sound by the flapping of its wings very rapidly, and the flapping of the wings produces the sound which is almost like humming, and hence the name the hummingbird. And here let me tell you the story which is given in the text in a very brief fashion for you to read and understand what it is all about. There is a community of birds and animals living in a forest, and there is a forest fire one fine day, and all the animals are wondering how to put off that fire. But the hummingbird, being the smallest of all the creatures, thinks about a very good idea. So it goes to a near lake which is very near the forest. You have lot of water bodies in the forest. It thinks of collecting water and tries to put out the fire. So it just takes a few drops of water from the lake nearby and tries to put it on the fire, thinking it would destroy the fire. All the animals, including the elephants and the big lions, they just mock at this hummingbird, thinking, how is it possible to put out this forest fire with just few drops of water? But undeterred by all the comments or the criticism made by all animals who watch very silently and passively, the hummingbird keeps taking little drops of water to put out the fire, thinking that the fire will be put off very easily in no time. And it really tells you how the hummingbird, even though the smallest of all creatures among the birds, is able to think of protecting the environment in stopping the forest fire by all its efforts. So it says, I am doing the best I can. Dear students, I want you to reflect on this particular idea. When compared to the macrocosm, that is the hugeness of this world, this planet, we are just a small little dot. And you may wonder how you are going to protect the environment, being such a small creature in this universe. But if all of us start thinking like the hummingbird, surely we can bring about a lot of change to protect the environment. Next comes the story of the homeless house sparrows. Very sad, isn't it? We all of us have homes to live in. We are well protected, but the house sparrows are homeless. So the very title should convey what exactly is the plight or condition of the house sparrows. Why is it called house sparrows? Because sparrows used to build nests in the houses, in the big houses in rural areas, and they used to live, and the population used to be really great. But now, why are we talking about the house sparrows? There are several reasons why this population is becoming very less. It's a very sad kind of a statistics, but we ought to know about it so that we can do something about it. Sparrows are becoming less in number because of lack of food, because of lack of nesting place, and because of lack of habitat. And you know, in this modern world, the mobile phones which we are so dependent on, they bring about lot of hazards to the lives around us, even to ourselves, even to the human beings, leave alone the birds and animals. So sparrows are also affected because of the mobile radiation, the electromagnetic pollution that we are causing indirectly to the environment. And also there is another important reason why sparrows are diminishing in number, because of insecticides and pesticides which are used in agriculture in order to protect the crops from insects and pesticides. So what is the difference that it's going to make to the population of sparrows? Sparrows depend on the insects and pesticides. So if we don't do anything to protect the life of the sparrows, we will not see sparrows in future. We may have to look at only the pictures, and the future generations will not even know what is a house sparrow is, but only come to know about it by looking at the picture of this kind. So we need to do something about the house sparrows. So, based on the text which is given to you for reading, let me ask you a quick series of questions by way of reading out the questions to you. Why is a sparrow called Angadi Kurvi? Angadi refers to the market. Angadi in Tamil refers to the markets where the sparrows used to build nests. That is why it is called Angadi Kurvi. And they also used to build nests in the homes. And the second question is, what sort of crisis are sparrows facing today? We already saw from the text how the sparrows don't have a living habitat, a place to live in, and also the food to eat. Then how do you expect sparrows to increase in number? And the third question is, how do sparrows take a dust bath? It's a very interesting thing that a sparrow is able to take bath in the dust. It can dig out the sand and takes some bit of sand and puts it on itself, and it is also capable of taking water bath. And have you heard of sun bath? When you look at one particular phrase, you should try to connect it to a similar one. So, you would have heard of the sun bath which people take in cold places, but here the sparrows are popular for taking a dust bath. We come to the fourth question. Give two reasons for the decline in the number of sparrows. Already we saw from the text how the extensive use of mobile phones causes electromagnetic pollution. That is one of the main reasons why sparrows are not to be found in the city areas. And there is another reason, because markets are different now. We have a new kind of a market concept coming in, not the old marketplaces where they can build nests. And especially in urban areas where people live in apartments and flats, sparrows don't find a place to build their nests. The next question is, why is the sparrow important in food chains and food webs? This is also a very important aspect to look at. We may think, being such a small bird, what if they don't exist at all? But every living being, including the microorganisms, have a very important place in the food chain. And we know that the sparrows eat away all the insects. If sparrows were not there, all the insects would increase in number. So that way the food chain or the cycle will be greatly disturbed. So it's very important that every little thing or big living animal is important to the maintenance of the ecosystem, which we will see maybe at a later stage. And coming to the last comprehension question based on this particular passage, why should we save this small common bird? Already we have seen the answers, because we know the importance of sparrows in maintaining the food chain, in maintaining the ecosystem. So it's very important that we protect this small little creature. So coming to the kind of measures which are taken in order to protect the sparrows, we should know that there is a World Sparrow Day observed all over the world in March, that is on the 20th of March. Why do we observe a particular day? It is to create some kind of an awareness regarding the importance of the sparrow. And there are several sparrow monitoring systems all over the world. Bird lovers, animal lovers, eco-friendly people, they are doing a lot of things to monitor the movement of birds, the number of birds, and you would have heard about the Project Tiger, which is taken up by the government, where they monitor the number and movement of tigers. And you will also find something very interesting. The state of Delhi has declared the house sparrow as a state bird. So all this goes to assert the importance of sparrows in our daily life. And it is also listed in the Red Data Book of International Union for Conservation of Nature. The Nature Forever Society, based in Pune, is running a similar program, namely Common Bird Monitoring of India. So friends, Not only the sparrows, we have a whole list of endangered species. What do you mean by endangered species? The species which are in great danger of being destroyed or becoming extinct. Some of them are already extinct, but there are other species which are endangered. They are in great danger of losing their life on this particular planet. So, whole list is given, and there is also a link given for you to understand what kind of birds are near extinction and how we should protect them. So, there are YouTube links available. You can always go to the Google to find out more about words. Coming to the language aspect of this particular passage, reading, you need to get acquainted with the vocabulary. So, we have a glossary of terms here where you find the first term adapt, that is to fit by alteration. You have to adapt to the environment. And there is also habitat, a place in which one lives. The next word is an adjective, distinct. Distinct means very prominent or very clear. And there is another adjective, peculiar, which refers to something that is odd and unusual. There is another verb coming to you, flicker. Flicker means making small, quick movements. Urbanization, it's a noun form where it refers to the process of formation and growth of cities. Vital, vital is an adjective which means very important. And you have the last one, insecticide, which refers to a substance that is used to kill insects. Apart from these words which are common and may be familiar to you, we have another list given for language study, because vocabulary is very important to improve your expression both in writing and speaking. Whenever you talk about a particular topic or whenever you want to write about a particular topic, you need to make use of certain vocabulary, and especially when it is subject oriented, you need to have a register. So, the kind of words which are to be used technically in a particular context is what we mean by register. Suppose you want to talk about the environment, you cannot miss out words like agriculture or horticulture and a whole list of words. And you should also understand how the word culture is attached to the root word to give a specific meaning. But every prefix and suffix has got a meaning of its own. So, the word suffix culture refers to the growth or cultivation. So, when you talk about agriculture, it is the cultivation of crops or the growth of crops. So, similarly, you have horticulture, you have sericulture, you have aquaculture, and you have floriculture and mariculture. So, several words are given for you to match. Okay. So, you have column A with the words ending in culture, and under column B you have words with meanings, and you need to match them in order to get the correct meanings of these words. A similar expression is important in language. Any number of words you can go on adding to your vocabulary, which really helps you in expressing what you think whenever you want to share knowledge or transfer ideas or express opinions. You need to have a good set of vocabulary guided by grammar. So, it's a very important component in language. There is something interesting which you need to know regarding another kind of expression which refers to a phobia. Dear students, do you know what is phobia? Can you guess the meaning of this term? Some of you might know already that a phobia is extreme fear or dislike of something. So, you have a whole list of phobia given here. There is a particular term like agrizophobia, which is the fear of wild animals. There is agoraphobia, which refers to the fear of streets or crossing them. Some people, they are stuck on the road. When they see vehicles passing by, they have a fear of crossing. There is a third one which is called ichmophobia, which is a fear of needles or pointed objects. There is also something called fear of cats, which is referred by the term ailurophobia. There is another one which is given as fear of soreness, which is referred by the term asirophobia. And we have some more phobias to be discussed here. It is just for you to know more number of words you know in a particular language. They will definitely help you improve your vocabulary, which you can use in different contexts. And some familiar ones and some unfamiliar ones are there. You try to learn them, try to acquire them. The first one is acrophobia, which refers to the fear of heights. There is also aerophobia, which refers to the fear of flying. Many of them have seasickness, like they have the fear of traveling on board the ship or even a boat. Similarly, we have aerophobia. Aero refers to the air, the aeroplane, the fear of flying. There is another thing called arachnophobia, which refers to the fear of spiders. There is astrophobia, which is the fear of thunder and lightning. Whenever we hear thunder and lightning, we are scared. Some of us are scared. And there is something called orophobia, which refers to the fear of being alone. So they always want people around. There is also something called hemophobia, which is the fear of blood. Hemo refers to the blood. And hydrophobia, can you guess? Hydro refers to water. So hydrophobia necessarily means the fear of water. And there is also something called claustrophobia, where when you are in a secluded place or in a closed room, you get the feeling of claustrophobia. You fear that being alone is a terrible feeling. And there is also something called scotophobia, which is the fear of darkness. Many of us definitely will have this scotophobia. And there is one more very interesting aspect to the social interaction. Some of them will have to be on their own, will like to be on their own all the time. So they have what is called sociophobia, which is the fear of social interaction. So these kinds of phobias may be innate, it may be inborn, it may be a congenital problem. Like for example, there are people who are autistic. So autistic children, they have a fear of looking at anybody. They avoid looking at anybody's eyes. Looking into somebody's eyes and talking is a very important communication skill. But these autistic children, they have a fear of looking into the other people's eyes and then talking. So as I told you earlier, some kinds of phobia may be related to genetics or something may be inborn, and that has to be treated with therapy. And there may be psychological issues for this kind of a phobia. And some people have fear of snakes. Some people have fear of even cats. We referred to that earlier. So some people have fear of darkness, loneliness, being in a secluded place. So if it is psychological, that also can be dealt with. There is yet another interesting aspect to the different kinds of expressions which we have in the English language. That is mania. A mania is an excessive enthusiasm, a desire or obsession for something. So the words are given here. Let me read out the words with their meaning. We will get familiar with them one by one. The first one is ablutomania, which means a mania for washing oneself. There is another thing called arithmomania, which is an obsessive preoccupation with numbers. The third one is clinomania, which is excessive desire to stay in bed. And the last one on this list is dinomania, which is a mania for dancing. So let us get familiar with more number of terms under this category. We have bibliomania, which is a passionate love for books. And there is something called monomania, which is to do with obsession with just one thing, like monoculture. Mono means single. So similarly, monomania refers to obsession with one thing. There is something called kleptomania, which refers to an irresistible urge to steal. And there is also something called Anglomania, which refers to the craze for England and the English. There is something called Bruxomania, which is compulsion for grinding teeth. There is something called Clinomania, which is excessive desire to stay in bed. Already we have come across that term, I think. And there is something called dipsomania, which refers to abnormal craving for alcohol. Demonomania refers to the pathological belief that one is possessed by demons. So from the root word, you can always guess the meaning of the terms and try to guess them and correctly use them in a particular context. We come to the next part of listening and speaking. And let us learn something about the art of storytelling. It's very interesting. I have already in the beginning of this particular lesson told you about the story of the hummingbird. And I narrated the whole thing in my own words, even though you have the printed text in front of you. But listening and speaking they are very important skills in language. So let us learn something about the art of storytelling. So what are the points that you need to remember when it comes to storytelling? You should know to whom you are narrating the particular story. That is knowing your audience. And you should also set the scene. Try to create the kind of atmosphere in order to tell a particular story. And it's very important when you narrate a story, you need to take care of the chronological order or the sequence of time. And the next important thing is you should know your punchline. Some terms have lot of force and some words will have lot of meaning. So you should know how to use the correct punchline. And you should also be expressive and try to get excited. Unless you show interest in telling a story, the listener will not show any kind of an interest in listening. And you should tell the story as if you are going to talk, not as if you are going to present a paper. And try to make it easy to relate to the present context. So that will give relevance to the kind of story that you are going to narrate.